Great. I think we will start. So welcome, everyone. I am Maria Pinar. I'm from VC Task Force, and VC Task Force is an organization that focuses on the investment community, where we have relevant conversations of the latest trends in investments and all the relevant topics that investors are looking at in improving their portfolios and being more effective. So we focus on investment communities for corporate VCs, for VCs as well as angels. And I am delighted today to have Gary Fowler with us as part of Gary's Picks, where we are discussing groundbreaking startups that Gary is working with in artificial intelligence. So Gary is an award-winning senior level executive with 30 plus years of success in global strategic innovation, leadership, sales, marketing, operational and investment management. He's the co-founder and CEO of the award-winning growth stage AI venture studio, GSD Venture Studios, and also co-founder of the award-winning AI startup, Yva.ai, as well as the investment firm DY Investments. So Gary's been quite involved in the investment community for a very long time with successful exits of a number of startups. And we are also delighted today to have Abhijit Chaudhary. So from the company that he is doing is Niral Networks, thank you. And Abhijit has 2 decades of experience in telecommunication and data network industry. He previously co-founded eTrans Networks and Pixel, and was instrumental in architecting software-defined networks, 4G packet core and routing products for telecom service providers and enterprise. So I am excited to hear more about private 5G as a service, and I will hand it over to Gary today.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. I really appreciate it. You know, to everybody out there, as Maria said, my name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur investor. Love artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 5G, 6G, and all the things to come, because we are inundated with information and we need to be able to get that at a moment's notice. I've been doing startups, as I said, for over 17 startups today, now on 18th actually, and we are seeing changes take place that we've never seen before. We're inundated with information, as I said, the state of infobesity. At the same time, we got to have better ways to be able to get that information to us and make better decisions. So with that, I'd like to bring Abhijit on board. Abhijit's an incredible company founder. He's gone from Huawei forward. And I got a question for you, Abhijit. How in the world did you go from Huawei to where you are today?
Hey, thanks, Gary, and thanks, Maria. So, yeah, I mean, starting from Huawei to starting Niral Networks, it has been a great kind of experience that we had in Huawei. I mean, we actually worked in developing one of their routing product. I was an architect for their routing product. So the experience to build a product from scratch was really, really a important experience, which I do cherish a lot. And that also gave me the confidence that we can build products. And that's how slowly, I think I started my first company, which was eTrans Network, which was a consulting company where we helped some of the telecom operators in Asia as well as in India build their own products in the telecom side. I mean, in the routing and like in the 4G packet core. And I mean, that gave me more boost and confidence that there is a need for building open products, not very proprietary products, because we know all the big incumbent OEMs who are there, but there is a need to build open and disaggregated products. And 5G was emerging, and that's how we kind of jumped into the bandwagon of 5G and thought that with 5G, especially with private 5G, we can build, make private 5G as ubiquitous as you see Wi-Fi networks, right? because it is really open, it is more distributed, more like cloud native. So that's why, I mean, we kind of started Niral Networks.
Well, I mean, if you look at it now, we're really democratizing opportunities around the world. And, you know, as we've seen through COVID, there's a lot more we can do without having to be in an office. There's a lot more opportunities that can happen throughout the developing world. Look at places like Africa, 38 countries. And Maria knows this well, the 38 countries, and you got places like Nigeria that are growing gangbusters and looking for ways to be able to maximize their opportunities there, whether it's fintech, et cetera. So, you know, you're right on target with it, but where's it gonna go? I mean, Abhijit, where is it gone? What's next? What, you know, if we look at the horizon over the next 5 years, what are we gonna see next?
Yeah, very interesting question, Gary. So, and you kind of brought some pertinent points, like what we got with 4G. I mean, 4G has really helped us to see a lot of applications, especially on the consumer-focused applications. And 4G has played a key role, and that worked even being at home, being remote. Like, let's talk about Uber. I mean, before COVID too, like, let's talk about Uber or Facebook, Instagram. All those things have been powered a lot because of 4G. I mean, you can be outdoor and you want to really book a ride, or you want to take a picture or a video and post it instantly. It was possible using 4G. Even like we are talking now probably on a 4G network. So these are kind of applications which are information technology applications that I would say. But when you talk about new emerging applications like autonomous driving, or like what Facebook recently did by rebranding to Meta, about creating digital twins, like gaming, 4D, and then for all such robotics also. I mean, for all the new emerging applications, you need not only high bandwidth, but also low latency. Low latency, like when you are driving an autonomous vehicle and you want that you should be able to take a decision within like 2 or 10 milliseconds, right? So for that, you need the network to really respond within that time. So for that, you need new kind of architecture in the network, which is low latency along with mobility, indoor as well as outdoor. And that's where 5G is kind of optimized for. The architecture itself is optimized for mobility, for outdoor, which will enable and optimize new applications like autonomous guided vehicles, robotics, drones, etc., which would become more and more ubiquitous, as we'll see. So 4G kind of helped disrupt the B2B or like customer-facing applications, but 5G, I think, would be disrupting the business-driven applications. Let it be Industry 4.0 or smart home, etc. All IoT devices getting connected. That's where 5G would play a very critical role.
Well, but we're going to move, you know, I hear 6G, right? We're making movements forward. I mean, where are we? So what are we going to expect? So 5G, you're right, with the Internet of Things, think about it, farming 4.0, we got to be able to connect the dots to the field. We need having connection points like 5G, those kind of gateways to be able to do it. But where do we go? I mean, what are the limits and what do we need? So we got 6G. I hear about 6G now. What does it look like? Is that going to happen in the next 5 years? Is that going to become real? What do you think?
I think if you go by history and like how it has been, like the telecom Gs has been coming up, it has a tenure of around a decade, like a 10 years. Like you see 4G was from like 2010 to 2020, and like 3G was between before that, 10 years before that, like from 2000 to 2010. So I think 5G has started, but the real use cases of 5G would come in another 2 to 3 years. It would take another, from a practical perspective, I think 5G would be there for like around 2028 or 2030. I would say that you would still see 5G and 6G starting up. I think 6G would enable much more like autonomous guided vehicle that I was talking about earlier. Part of that would be enabled by 5G, maybe the enterprise, but to make autonomous guided vehicles really ubiquitous, that is what would probably happen in 6G. So we have the kind of bells and whistles being built from the 5G, but as we go from one technology to another, it would become much better. And I'm sure new disruptive applications would also come by that time. So I mean, it is pretty wide open, and you can imagine the kind of applications which would be enabled. We can't even think about what applications can still be possible with 5G because it's just starting up. And 6G, I think it would be much more disruptive. I really can't imagine what kind of applications would be feasible. I mean, coming in the coming 10 years.
So look, just think about this. So what do you see right now? You know, so I know in Farming 4.0, we're talking about how do we optimize the field, you know, and make it much more productive, because we got challenges with the food supply. By 2050, we're going to have to double the food supply to feed everybody on the planet. And we can't increase the number of livestock because of pollution. 26% of the pollution days caused by that. So we've got some critical needs what we haven't really seen before, right? It's a lot different now because these aren't things that we should have. These are things we must have, right? How do you look at it? What industries are going to be, from your opinion, most affected first?
Yeah, so from my current experience, I think the initial traction that I see is especially for the emerging application is, I think, more on the industry 4.0. I see a lot of manufacturing industries would be adopting 5G. I mean, companies like John Deere has recently announced that they are going for autonomous farming vehicles, tractors, and so which would enable autonomous farming itself through their John Deere tractors, etc. So that would be enabled, I'm sure, by 5G. And manufacturing, vehicles, cars, etc. 5G would play a very key role. I mean, starting from in the manufacturing plant, you have to sometimes monitor in around 10 millisecond kind of latency. You need to see what is happening. If you are late, I mean, if you take the decision late, something may go wrong within the industry or within the the industry line itself. So it's very critical that we should be able to monitor at a low latency. So those things can be automated or digitized using 5G, of course, and with mobility. So it would play a very critical role. I think the first target would be industry 4.0, the manufacturing. But as you rightly told, smart farming is there. Then healthcare is also a very important use case. I think a lot of the remote operations would be robotic surgery. All those would be enabled using 5G. So that would also play a very critical role. I also think that there is one more key aspect. I mean, you talked about Africa, right? And I'm sure a lot of there are companies, underdeveloped countries, which or developing countries who have a lot of places which are still unconnected. Like you have the operators, the big operators providing country-wide connectivity. But still, I mean, especially in the developing countries, there are a lot of pockets which are unconnected. I think private network would play a critical role to connect a village or a critical role to connect the semi-urban areas and make the entire country connected. So connecting the unconnected using private network would also be an important stuff which would happen in the coming decade, I think, and it would enable connecting the entire internet, the global connecting globally and providing all the use cases like healthcare, then education in the rural, semi-urban. that banking in the rural areas, that would also be enabled using 5G, or especially using private 5G, I feel.
Okay, so talk about private 5G. Tell the audience what private 5G is and how it differs.
So private 5G is similar to creating a private network within an enterprise or within a campus too, but using 5G instead of probably an Wi-Fi network. We are very, like in my home, I can say that the home network is also a private network, or which is in my home, it is created using a Wi-Fi. Or if you talk about an enterprise, they also have private networks using Wi-Fi as well as Ethernet or cable, and they connect to the public network, which can be from the operator or from an internet service provider, etc. Now, I was talking about the Industry 4.0, right? So, which needs connectivity which is low latency, and also you need outdoor mobility because you have the vehicles which are moving within the enterprise. So the existing Wi-Fi network would not be able to support both mobility as well as low latency with using the Wi-Fi. So you need to upgrade the network, and that's what private 5G can do. So you are basically making your enterprise network much more resilient to mobility, like you are moving, as well as to provide connectivity even indoor as well as outdoor, and be able to run industry grade low latency application, let it be robotics, let it be like autonomous guided vehicles or drones, which are like mainly outdoors. So that's what private 5G would enable. And if you talk about like enterprise network, I think it would be a mixture or amalgamation of both the Wi-Fi network as well as the private 5G network. So Wi-Fi network would take care of existing IT, like the information technology work that we are doing, maybe our office work or the video conference, but there would be a private 5G who would take care of the operation sensitive work, which require low latency kind of connectivity. So it would, the private network would be a private Wi-Fi plus a private 5G network. That's how I see the enterprises of the future would have for the network connectivity.
No, I agree. You know, in a sense, I know in my home, I actually have a one of those mini cell towers that you can get. There's like a repeater in my house. So the 5G in my house is connected actually to my internet provider because I needed to strengthen the signal. You know, you're right. We're going to see more of that. And we're going to need more technologies that are out there to help us to be able to capture, to enhance those signals. Because if we got them all over Africa, we're going to have some type of infrastructure in place to be able to support it. So the world's going to definitely change. You know, and those data points, it's all about collecting data, Abhijit. There's a lot of data out there, and we're generating. I mean, most people don't realize there's 49 zettabytes of data on the planet. Well, if you took DVDs or CDs from the old days and stacked them one on top of another, it would go now 35 times between Earth and the moon. We are in a state of infobesity, and the more data that's generated, and of course it's being increased at 68% per year, we have more data points to go after. So these types of technology are going to become more and more important, and AI, unsupervised and semi-supervised, so we can make sense out of the data. It's one thing to collect it, it's another thing to have an incredible network, but if we don't know what to do with it, it's still a zero, right? We got to all work together to solve these massive opportunities and challenges that we have in front of us. So now let's talk about Niral. Tell us about what you're doing directly.
So at Niral Networks, we are trying to build a private 5G network. We are building a network operating system, which we call Niral Networks, which would provide a private 5G software stack. It actually has three components. One is the IP MPLS packet routing infrastructure, because like you have to carry the private 5G data from the radios, like the 5G radios, to the central location where the mobility management would be done. So the next part is called a 5G packet core, which does the like the mobility management, like the vehicles which are moving around. You have to decide how to manage the mobility, then how to manage the subscribers or the devices, authenticate them. So that is taken care by the 5G core. And lastly, we have an SDN controller or a Niral controller, which is used to manage a private network. So the controller can be in a public cloud, and through that controller from outside, you can manage your private network. So that's why we call Niral private 5G as a service. So it's similar to providing infrastructure as a service. The infrastructure in this case would not reside in the cloud, but actually it would reside in the enterprise itself. So because we are providing the connectivity within the enterprise. So our business model is that we are tying up with off-the-shelf, commercial off-the-shelf hardware and radio vendors who would provide the radios and hardware on which our software can run. Our software is a cloud native like software stack, which can run on like servers as well as some hardened appliances. And we would provide both the hardware as well as the software as a service to the customers. Predominantly the enterprises are whom we are looking at, and to provide their last mile or their private 5G connectivity. Now, their devices, their devices like the autonomous guided vehicles or like the robots would be connected with the 5G SIM, and that SIM would actually talk to the radios that we install with our partners. And from the radio, the packet would go, actually the 5G traffic would go to the data center. And from the data center, you just mentioned about collection of data, right? So all these robotics or the drones, as they are moving, they would generate a lot of data. And there has to be a decision made, like whether the drone should move left or right, because there are another maybe 20 drones around. Like the decision has to be done by edge cloud or edge data center. So to make it fast, I mean, so after our 5G core, there would be mobile edge applications running. It can be for drones, it can be for robotics, etc. Those edge applications would collect the data, do the analytics, do the compute, and take a decision and send back within millisecond latency. So the drone, whether it should move left or right or stop or switch on the video, those decisions would be taken instantly within milliseconds by the edge applications, and the decisions would be given. And this entire 5G that we provide, the network connectivity that we provide, can be managed from the cloud. So that's for that you don't really need a IT specialist, specialized IT stuff. You can manage it by clicking couple of buttons from our dashboard and manage the entire network or upgrade the network. So this is what we want to do, and we are providing an open solution. So you can put on existing servers. So you don't buy proprietary hardware or software. We are using an open software stack. We are building an open software stack, and it can be integrated on open hardwares and open radios to build an kind of an open 5G infrastructure. So that's what we want to enable for our customers.
Great, and tell us a little bit about what are your plans for growth? What countries are you looking at going to, and how do you plan to grow?
Yes, very important question. So at this point, we have been working on the development, and we are kind of ready for POC now. Like we have the solution, like we have shown some POCs to some customers also. So now we are initially targeting, we have our office in India. So we are initially doing some POCs in India, but we have some requirement coming from Africa, as well as we have an office in US at this point. So initially our target is to focus on the Indian market and the US market, because we have office in these two places. And from India, we would like to also, from the Indian office, we would also like to serve some of the Asian customers. Like we have some like Korea, Japan are really already deploying 5G and private 5G products. Even US, for that matter, has started private 5G deployments too, using CBRS. So I think in US we already have an office, so it's already looking at the market out here. And for the Asian market, we are looking out from the Indian office. So these are the two initial like expansion that we are like the market access that we are looking at for the coming 2 years. And I think in another 2 to 3 years, we would be ready to provide the solution as a service. At this point, we are still doing the POCs to see how the solution can be provided as a service. Once we make the solution ready as a service and understand the market better, I think it can be launched globally, because once it is as a service, we would have partners who can go and kind of deploy the private network through the partners in various global geographies, but it can be managed from the cloud remotely itself. So that would be the advantage.
That's super. Listen, we're coming out to the top of the show. Closing comments, and how do people reach you?
Yes, I mean, I would be very much reachable on my email, and so you can reach me at Abhijit, as in Abhijit, at niralnetworks.com, and you can get all the details in our website. So please feel free to reach out to us. We are really exploring people who would like to disrupt the next generation of networking, especially for enterprises and even home automation using private 5G. So looking forward to talk to any of you who are keen to know about the solution and the technology.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Abhijit. I really appreciate it. And, you know, you're doing a great job. Keep moving forward. You know, the world needs companies just like yours to connect us together and democratize the opportunities, as we say. And as of course, you know, I've stated earlier, data is a challenge, right? Gathering that data, and the more we have, the better decisions we can make. So I want to thank my audience for joining today, Gary's Picks. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am your host. Exciting episode of Gary's Picks. Maria?
Thank you so much, Gary, and so thank you so much, Abhijit. That is really an exciting space, as Gary is mentioning, and I'm also excited to see all the wonderful applications that 5G capability and 6G in future will bring, especially for developing markets. So this is the great space that you're in, and again, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure our audience thoroughly enjoyed the conversation as well.
Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. Stay happy, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay safe. And we'll tune in again for the next episode in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.